to say, how much are you standing because you want to do this job and tackle these local issues, as opposed to making a statement for reform?
Well, it is my local area, so I know how badly the councils are run, Bristol Council in particular. And I mean, the weird thing about this is the mayor role has very little power. In fact, if you actually look at it, the guy's achieved almost nothing. And it's three competing councils that really have a veto over the mayor. So there's no mistake, it's not a sort of job where you can actually get a great deal done. But I think my approach to it is to audit the hell out of the local councils, see what they're actually up to, and pressurise them to provide better services for local people. So focus on local services rather than the idiotic stuff they sometimes get up to.
What's an idiotic thing they've got up to recently?
There's many idiotic things. I mean, you look at, for instance, like, the mayor here. They spent £5 million on a trial of how to better get around Bristol. Well, there's only one way to better get around Bristol, and that's have more buses and more services that people can get around. £5 million spent on a trial that went nowhere and did nothing.
So you wouldn't be interested in a Bristol Underground style mass transport system at all?
I think the residents, the chaos involved in doing that would be absolute. I think a good increase in bus services would be a much better way to do it. If you look at the previous mayor, they spent £40 million making the buses green, sticking a picture of himself in the back of the bus, and then run out of money for subsidised bus, schemes. So I think, focus the money on actual services that people want.
There were some protesters talking about you outside the hustings the other night. There's been a lot of people talking about your tweet describing Bristol as a little Somalia.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I wasn't invited to the event, so they missed out on seeing me. So I was a bit disappointed not to get an invite. The organisers said they had actually sent it to someone in Reform, but it never made its way to me. I guess my issue, as you would imagine, standing for reform, is that we need to control immigration, otherwise services suffer for everybody.
So does that mean you still see Bristol as a little Somalia?
Well, I think that was just an off-the-cuff comment, but I mean, recent Home Office figures showed that Somalian community are 10 times more likely to commit serious crimes than any other. And I think it's no surprise with that level of, people that we've had issues with drugs and crime and all sorts.
So you're blaming Somalians for drugs and crime in Bristol?
Yes.
You are?
Yes. I mean, it's probably self-apparent. That's not to say all Somalians are bad people, but, in the same way Romanians are at the forefront of the criminal activities in most cities, certainly Somalians in Bristol are at the forefront of crime in Bristol. It's self-apparent. You may not like it, but that's the truth.
Is that a racist thing to say?
Is it? I don't think so. It's self-apparent fact. It's a bit like saying, is it racist to say that Romanians are causing a crime wave in the UK? It's not per se the fact they're Romanian, but they are.
So when people might be considering voting for reform, maybe to send a message to the Tories, but they might be concerned, as some of those protesters were saying, that it is a racist vote.
Well, they can say what they like. I don't think it's racist to say control immigration. And in fact, if you go back over the last 40 years, we had immigration at a rate of 50,000 a year, people integrated into the communities, and it was there weren't any issues at all. Now you've got so many people coming in, they've created their own kind of ghettoised communities, and it is causing a problem.
What would you do as mayor to change that?
There's nothing you can do to change it.
So you're running for a role,
yeah.
And you're saying Somalians are causing crime in Bristol, but there's nothing you do?
Absolutely nothing. Well, why say anything else? I mean, the role of mayor, by the way, it's a cabinet of 4 people, the South Gloucestershire Council, Bath Council and Bristol, and the current mayor has achieved absolutely nothing. I mean, I think he's already stated that his greatest achievement is to hand out free bus passes for people on their birthday. He's achieved nothing.
Thank you. So obviously you're running for West of England Metro Mayor. You campaigned to get rid of Bristol as directly elected mayor, running the council. Is it hypocritical?
The reason that I ran a campaign to remove the role of the Bristol mayor is that that role was a blocker to the region. It was stopping stuff getting done. The arena was cancelled, a number of other projects, and it just was not working with the West of England mayor. And the two roles are as different as comparing PIP with pocket money. You know, we can't say that one thing equates to another. The two roles have completely different functions. One was a unilateral, standalone, dictatorial style kind of mayor, not spending time here in the city, and the other one is a hands-on mayor who has to bring people together across all of the three local councils and across all of our communities. So completely different roles, not hypocritical at all.
How is a role dictatorial when it's elected every 4 years exactly the same as this role is?
This role has checks and balances. The role of West of England mayor has a number of factors where it has to interact. That person has to work with people and take people with them. Whereas the Bristol mayor, there was absolutely nothing and no one who could stop that person doing precisely exactly what they want, even if that wasn't what they campaigned for. So, you know, there was no one that mayor was answerable to, apart from like once every 4 years. I don't believe that democracy is something that happens once every 4 years and is done to us. Like many people, I believe that democracy is something that we are an active participant in. And that's what I'm passionate about. And that's what I spent time on the doorsteps in Hartcliffe, in Avonmouth, in our most deprived communities, where people are struggling and finding the cost of living is biting right through to the bone. Those are the people that I seek to represent, and those are the people that I want to bring in and understand what the West of England can offer to them in terms of transport, upskilling or reskilling for jobs that they would like to get, and making sure that people have got decent homes to live in, because too many of our homes are full of damp and mould, or you can't even get on the housing ladder at all.
So obviously the Metro Mayor, you were saying, has people to hold them to account, whereas no one was holding the Bristol Mayor to account. The Metro Mayor vetoed the Bristol Mayor's plans to spend more money investigating a Bristol Underground. Isn't that the West of England then being dictatorial over Bristol?
I think what the Metro Mayor was doing in that, well, in fact, I think you'd have to ask Dan Norris himself about the reasoning and rationale behind his decisions. I'm not here to answer for anybody else apart from myself. There may be a contrast, but actually each of the councils has got a veto, and that's part of that governance structure which got the regional authority into special measures, and the government said, you're not good enough, you're not working together well enough, and in actual fact they've had that lifted, that sanction lifted, and so that's because they've improved their governance structures. So there is a case where you have to collaborate, and there's also an opportunity for each one of the areas to stop stuff happening within their areas. It could have been the leader of one of the councils who'd said that, but hopefully one thing is certain, we are going to get a new mayor, regardless of who that is. And that person needs to be somebody who is prepared to collaborate, and I'm somebody who is used to working with people and businesses. I brokered deals and collaborations between entrepreneurs working and innovators working at the cutting edge of tech and getting them to work with multinational companies at the National Composite Centre. That's something I do, that's something I enjoy, and it's something I'm wholeheartedly capable of doing.
Okay, I will just add in for context, there may be votes which require a unanimous vote, but in that vote over the Bristol Underground, it was only the Metro Mayor who had a veto and who used it. You said you want to give people a bus pass to allow them to travel free 1 day a week. How much is that going to cost the taxpayer?
That, in terms of the whole transport budget for the West of England, there's about £75 million worth of figures. None of the mayoral candidates have had the briefing from the West of England to get the exact figures for what is available for what project. But we think we can do it, at no further cost than the money that's already there. It's allocated. We've got the money allocated for the current Freedom Pass that no one knows about, which is a combined bus and train ticket that you can buy, and the birthday bus that we've got that 67,000 people signed up to and used, but limited people to just 1 month a year. And if you didn't use it because you weren't going out that month, then you lost the opportunity. Whereas this time round, if you combine those two, you get all of that money, and then we can afford to deliver it. I have had those figures checked informally by that, but I can't give you the overall figure. That's not available yet.
That's great. Thank you so much. So for Bristol, what kind of mass transit system, because I saw you mentioned it at the hustings last night, are you envisioning for the city?
Yeah, it's not, for me, it's not about the kind of type of mass transit. My vision is to get the buses sorted first, because that's the thing that every single person out there is telling me they want sorted, and then think about the rail network, which we've already started to do a lot of improvement on. And then the way I see it is where we've then got gaps in the network, we then look at what the best option is. It might be a tram, it might be light rail, I don't know, I wouldn't take anything off the table. But it's about the transport network overall, rather than getting fixated on one particular mode of travel.
Obviously, there's already a Labour mayor who's been given 100 million by the Conservatives to sort out buses in the area, so why aren't they sorted already?
I think that we've got passenger usage back up to pre-COVID levels at a higher level than almost every other authority in the country. So a lot of the work that Dan's been doing has been to encourage people back onto the buses. In order for our bus network to thrive, we need more people on there. We aren't Manchester, we aren't London, we're a semi-rural region, so we don't have the same density of population to just bring the buses and say, well, they're always going to be full. They're not. So I want to look at how we spend that money in terms of getting people onto the buses, but more importantly, how we connect up all of our communities. There's too many rural communities that at the moment can't get to where they need to get to. So I want to look into that. There's some feasibility on franchising that I know is happening right now, so I want to see the outcome of that. And obviously working with the bus operators in a collaborative way to see what that enhanced partnership can bring, and then if not, we know we've got franchising.
Obviously, with Dan Norris, former Metro Mayor, and Marvin Rees, the now former Mayor of Bristol, there was quite a bit of sparring between the two, a bit of vetoing each other. Is Labour together enough to do this job?
Yes, it's not just working with Labour, it's working with all the other parties, and I'm absolutely the right person to bring all of those people together and build the relationships across parties, both regionally, but then also, really importantly, with the Labour government in Westminster, because that's where the funding is going to come from.
If you don't win, it's going to be a bit of a blow to the government.
Yes.
Do you reckon that's going to be because of how Keir Starmer's been handling the country?
I'm not thinking about not winning, I'm just thinking about continuing this campaign, being as positive as we've been the whole way through, talking to voters and putting forward their thoughts as we get beyond the election.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
This hustings that you're keen that council will stop punishing drivers?
Yes.
Can you do that and improve buses at the same time?
Yes, I think the two things aren't exclusive. Improving buses gives people a reason to use public transport and get out of their cars if that's what they choose to do. And that's the important thing for me. Councils should not be imposing on people. People are sick of politicians telling them how we think they ought to live. We're all grown-ups, we can make our own choices. Our job is to provide those choices for people.
So what are councils getting wrong at the moment?
Well, I'm hearing from people across the west of England all the time that things are being imposed upon them, whether it's low traffic neighbourhoods in Bath, whether it's the East Bristol, Liverpool neighbourhood, bus lanes on the A4 Keynsham bypass, closing Park Street. What people are saying to me is, we didn't ask for this and we don't want this, and that's why I'm speaking out about it.
Would you stop funding for those schemes as Metro Mayor?
Yes, I will, where I can. So Park Street needs to come through the combined authority. I will not support that. If I'm elected, that will not be happening. Same with the A4 Keynsham bypass. That decision will come to me and I will not support it. Where councils already have funding to do schemes, I can't make them do anything they don't want to do, but I will not be funding new things.
So this Metro Mayor election comes after a pretty bruising general election for the Conservatives. Are you still relevant in this area as a party?
Yeah, completely. Even last year in the general election, outside of Bristol, Conservatives were the biggest party. More people voted for us than for anybody else, and that was at our lowest point. So yes, absolutely relevant.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Cheers. So you're a long-standing Labour councillor.
Yeah.
But you're standing as an independent.
Yeah.
So why is that?
Yeah. Previously, every time there's been a West of England election, I've stood for it, and Labour have blocked me on 2 of those occasions. So this time around, they've blocked other candidates, such as Leslie Mansell, who's already been a public candidate. They blocked Jamie Driscoll in the north of England, and to be fair, Andy Burnham called it out. So I thought, this time around, if they do not want me, I'll stand as an independent.
So what makes voting for you different from voting for Helen Godwin, the Labour candidate?
I've got the most experience out of all the candidates. I've been a councillor for 25 years, 15 years on Filton, 10 years on South Gloucestershire. The other candidates can't match that.
So am I right that the nominations you got to be a candidate, did you go out to farmers markets and chat to people in the street and get them to sign your nomination?
Yeah, in Bristol I went to the Farmers Saturday Market in White Ladies Road. For Bath and North East Somerset, I went to Keynsham High Street, and then the South Gloucester ones I knocked on local doors in Filton.
Brilliant. So what are you hoping to achieve in the role?
I'm hoping to get the fair funding for the West of England. When the white paper was announced on the 16th of December, they put West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire ahead of the West of England for integrated funding. That is completely unfair for this reason. The West of England is a net contributor to the British economy. We deserve to be in the Premier League. Our residents will believe we should be in the Premier League. They're fed up with party politicians making promises they can't deliver. I haven't made any commitments to any promises because they're not worth the paper they're written on, has been proven, and my approach is that people, like they did with Sue Mount Stevens, are quite sensible about this, will want to vote for a local independent who isn't tied to a national political party.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you think the Lib Dems stand a chance of winning this?
I think the Lib Dems have a very, very real chance of winning this. If you look at recent polls, we're at the top across the south of England. We have 3 local MPs. We're in a leading role in Bath and North East Somerset. We're also jointly leading in South Gloucestershire. We have a really strong team all across the region. We're the only party that has that visibility across the whole region. I think we're looking very strong at the moment, yeah.
You're currently a councillor for the Lib Dems on Bath and North East Somerset Council.
Yeah.
And I appreciate this was mainly before you were elected to council, but there was a huge row, really destructive row, between the council and the combined authority, which resulted in buses across the region being cut. Are the Lib Dems going to be able to work well with partners to ensure something like that doesn't happen again?
I would argue that that was down to the personality of the mayor at the time, and unfortunately the current mayor, the outgoing mayor, has had a number of situations where engagement with local authorities was less favourable than it should be, and not just with Bath and North East Somerset. You could say the same in Bristol, where the council leader was of his own party. So I think it's more a question of changing the mayor, and actually a mayor who is collaborative and engaging, which I am, would play a really key role. And as I mentioned before, the Lib Dems have leading roles in all the councils. Even here in Bristol, we have 2 or 3 of the key committee chair roles as well. So I would argue we are the only party that actually can bring everyone together and come up with a joint plan.
Personality is definitely a factor, but it was also about councils stopping their funding for buses and not increasing it in line with inflation. If there's an issue like that when you're mayor, are you going to be able to secure the money from councils to keep these buses alive?
There's a lot of money sitting in the West of England budget, which was never properly allocated in the first place. I think we need to look at the overall budgets for buses. I would absolutely want to see many bus routes restored, many of those routes that have been lost, particularly rural routes, absolutely essential. But again, this is down to the West of England Combined Authority. We need to make sure that we have a proper joined up plan across the whole region, working closely with all the councils, and there is budget available. We just need to allocate it better.
Thank you so much.